Hey guys! Our project is about anthropologist Victor Turner, who specialized in symbols, rituals, and cultural performances. Let's get started! So, Victor Turner was born into an eclectic family in Glasgow, Scotland. His mother, an actress, can be linked to his interest in theatrics and the culture surrounding them. He initially studied poetry and English at the University College of London, but after fighting in World War II, returned to school with a newfound appreciation for anthropology. He studied under Max Gluckman, who specialized in South African and British social anthropology, and Turner earned his BA honors degree in anthropology at 29. He stayed at the University of Manchester to earn his PhD in anthropology, and this is when he would write his two monograms and his dissertation, Schism and Continuity in an African Society, a study of Naboo village life. In order to study the Naboo tribe, Turner traveled to Africa, in present-day Zambia. Once he began studying this tribe, according to McLaurin, Turner's focus completely shifted from economics and demography to ritual symbolism. And here's a super good picture of some of the boys preparing for one of the initiations. This switch would guide the rest of Turner's career as an anthropologist, because Turner became known for his unique approach to symbolic anthropology. He wanted to know the social aspect towards symbols as if they meant more than just material interests. In 1961, Turner was made Fellow of the Center for Advanced Behavioral Sciences at Stanford University in California. In 1964, he became a professor of anthropology and the chairman of the Committee of African Studies at Cornell University in New York, and this is where he developed his model for what he called social drama, which we'll talk about later. Over the course of the next few years, Victor Turner took other jobs as professors, but mostly furthered his studies in performance by looking into New York's off-Broadway theater and the Carnaval de Rio. However, based on where he was located or who he was surrounded with, his interests changed. Victor outlined all of his studies further in his many books, some focusing on the use of metaphors, other on the use of symbols, and others still on the Naboo rituals. There is not much information about Turner's early life and studies because, as OxfordBibliographies.com states, his endeavors was uniquely interdisciplinary, anti-systematic, and perplexing, even mystical. However, there were a few people close to Turner who can elaborate on his studies further, including his best friends,
Perhaps the
this
concept he'll
guy.
be most remembered for is his notion of social drama. Now, for him, social drama was a four-part sequence, a dynamic sequence of breach, crisis, redressive action, and reintegration. So, for example, underlying every drama is some kind of fault line, like the St. Andrea's fault. It hasn't given yet, but there's a tension. And that breach, that tension is there. For example, in Romeo and Juliet, it's the feud between the Capulets and the Montagues. That exists before the play begins. The crisis is some precipitating event that brings to a fore the qualities of the breach. So in an earthquake, it's obviously the slipping of the two tectonic plates, which causes this immense destruction. In Romeo and Juliet, it can be several things. You could say it's when Romeo crashes the Capulet party and sees Juliet, and she sees him, and they fall in love. It could be perhaps the murder, the street fight where Mercutio gets killed. But anyway, there's a crisis that brings to the fore the underlying fault of the breach. And then comes the redressive action. Now, for Turner, this was the most important part. It's during this time where all kinds of processes are brought to bear to heal the crisis, to bring things back to stability. So they can be juridical processes like court cases. There can be warfare, like on a personal level or on the social level, the avenging of an insult, a honor killing, or a general war. But there can also be aesthetical ways and ritual ways of dealing of redressive action. So there can be dramas, sometimes in between two great nations like China and the United States when they were just beginning to get their relations.
Victor Turner was cutting edge in the rejection of anthropological principles that were previously just accepted. He was a part of the revolution in favor of interpretive perspectives. He did not feel that structuralism and functionalism satisfied the goals of anthropology to accomplish a comparative understanding of human experience. Victor Turner and Clifford Geertz introduced the concept of symbology to the discipline of anthropology. Turner asks which processes and rituals drive daily behavior and relates these processes to other parts of the group's lives. Turner was a very reflexive anthropologist and often related his works back on himself. It is interesting to see a man thinking about things on so many different levels. Victor Turner truly was revolutionary in the field of anthropology. Turner believes that femininity was created as a platform to oppose structuralist thinking. He asserts that the feminine way of life generates creativity. Turner himself was influenced by women more than any other anthropologist at the time. His mother played a big role in shaping the way he thought, and he conducted a lot of research with his wife Edith. Victor Turner completed work that offered an explanation of transcendence between cultures and a type of anthropocentrism. He argues that rituals provide a basis of why people view other people as different. Rituals reflect the values of people, and people are very defensive of their own values. Turner does not get the same type of recognition in textbooks that some of the most popular anthropologists do. This is not to say that he has not been working on influential stuff. Turner, however, has been cited in many journal articles, which shows that introductory textbooks are not the only factor that determines the popularity of an anthropologist. Many textbooks do not cover the in-depth studies that Turner performed. Victor Turner conducted his first major fieldwork on the Ndembu people who live in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Turner was determined to find out how the people he was studying resolved social conflicts. Turner introduced the concept of social drama to the field of anthropology. He noted that while most of the society practiced matrilineal descent, there was a smaller proportion of people who practiced patrilocality. Disputes between and within villages of the Ndembu people occur frequently, so Turner focused on how they resolved these conflicts. He determined that the people use a processional order when it came to these conflicts. The order is listed out in 4 steps. 1. A breach of regular norm-governed social relationships between persons or groups of a social unit. 2. A crisis or extension of the breach, unless the conflict can be sealed off quickly. 3. Adjustive and redressive mechanisms brought into operation by leading members of the social group. And 4. The reintegration of the disturbed social group or social recognition of an irreparable breach or schism. He recognizes that these people had a deliberate and consistent way of dealing with disturbances in the group. Later, he started to focus his work on the rituals of the Ndembu. His mother's influence can be seen as her acting career brought out the curiosity in Victor about human creativity and expression. Turner studies rituals as symbolic actions. He was always very interested in the reasons why Ndembu people acted how they did. Turner observed that the rituals in Ndembu culture involved 2 ceremonies. In between the 2 ceremonies, the people involved in the rite of passage are secluded from normal everyday life. This phase is described as liminal. The people in the ritual are given new names and looked at in a different light until the ritual is over. During this stage, the people involved develop a feeling of togetherness and family that Turner describes as communitas. These communitas are in direct opposition to structuralist ways of thinking because they do not fall nicely into a binary. Ndembu ceremonies are either life crisis rituals or affliction rituals. Life crisis rituals are more along the lines of rites of passage, including ceremonies for boys and girls as well as funerals. Affliction rituals are focused on helping someone get through being tormented by the deceased. These deceased were neglected during their time on earth and are seeking revenge on the person being afflicted. It is interesting to note that Ndembu ceremonies are focused on the three colors they see: white, black, and red. Turner's work on rituals as rites of passage provided a flat platform to build another way of thinking as opposed to the commonly accepted structuralist and functionalist ways of thinking. His influence stretched across many disciplines, which proves how influential one man can be.
Lastly, we want to discuss the handouts you all have or will receive. Each handout includes a cult that was mentioned in Victor Turner's book, The Forest of Symbols: Aspects of an Ndembu Ritual. The cults include the hunting cult, the women's fertility cult, and the curative cult. Even though your individual handouts will explain in detail your assigned cult, we thought you should have or hear a broad overview of each one. The hunting cult is no more than what it sounds: hunters. In Ndembu, a hunter receives his calling in a dream. From then on, they pursue this valued vocation. Being a part of the Ndembu hunting cult will allow you to see animals quickly, to draw animals to where you are, and to become invisible to them. Next, we have the women's fertility cult. Those within this cult have a strong belief in affliction. Remember, this is being freed from the hauntings of the deceased. It is known that wives are in debt to their matrilineal villages, even though they move into the villages of their husbands. These women have children not for their husbands, but for their mothers' brothers back at home. For women who have reproductive issues, there are 4 rituals. One concerning excessive blood flow during their menstrual cycle, one for those expecting twins or who are sterile, one for those who had multiple abortions or miscarriages, and one for those who are ill or just have a different reproductive disorder. Finally, the curative cult. These cults help to cure sickness and disease. There are variations within this cult. For example, there is the Chahumba, Kalemba, and Tukuka. In this cult, most doctors give their patients medication and then take the medication themselves so that the patient does not go through the side effects alone. The Ndembu tribes believed tuberculosis was caused by the Europeans, so for treatment they flourished the ill with European foods and mimicked European songs and dancing as well as their clothing. We hope you enjoyed our video and learned a lot about Victor Turner. We also hope you succeed in your new cults. Thanks for watching.